Has evaluation started from the communities that have been recaptured?
Yeah, as it is now, the communities are still under the control of the military. They are still under the control of the military. The military has sealed up those places. I think instead of anybody thinking about IDPs being forced to go back to that community, the first thing now is deployment of bomb detectives for us to be sure that there are no landmines, there are no explosives hidden anywhere. A place that has been occupied by a terrorist, you can guess that certain things might have been planted in those areas. Let me give you an instance. There is a community called Bulabuling Gardam in the northern side of Maiduguri. That community was taken over by Boko Haram in 2011, before Governor Kashim Shettima became the governor. When he became the governor, through the combined effort of the military and youth volunteers that we call civilian JTF, they were able to take over that community from Boko Haram in 2013. That community, over 500 houses were destroyed. The state government had to establish a brand new estate of 500 houses for those whose houses were destroyed. You can imagine something that happened in 2011. The military sealed off that area, brought in detectives, bomb experts, to sweep the place. They had to be absolutely sure that these areas, those houses that have not been destroyed, are safe for occupation. They just granted access not up to 2 months ago. And the governor now directed the state environmental...
3.5, 4 years.
Yeah, 3.5 years. The governor now directed the State Environmental Protection Authority to go and disinfect the area, sanitize the area before people can leave.
Okay.
So people might have been killed. They must have, people might have been, decomposed. You have to worry about diseases. So the issue of people going back to liberated communities, in my opinion, should not even arise at the moment.
Olisameka, you work with internally displaced persons basically in Abuja and across the northeastern part of the country. What's the situation now?
Okay, thank you very much, and thanks for having me again. I want to start by congratulating Nigeria and the armed forces for the successes being recorded so far. I can tell you sincerely that most of the IDPs are really excited, to hear their communities being taken back from the terrorists. So going forward, I want to join and continue from where my colleague talking from your studios in Lagos. The situation has not really changed much, other than that what we have is a systemic failure, where you have originally the organization that is saddled with the responsibility of taking care of the IDPs is not the organization with the requisite capacity, because National Emergency Management Agency at best is more like what I would describe as a paramedic agency, an intervention agency, or more or less a first aid agency. Theirs is they are first responders. Then afterwards, other organizations that are responsible for IDPs statutorily and with requisite training and capacity are actually supposed to take care of the IDPs going forward. I'm talking about the National Commission for Refugees, Migrants, and Internally Displaced Persons. Yes, some may have described their action as abdicating their responsibility to NEMA, or that NEMA have taken over the responsibilities of the National Commission for Refugees and Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons. And it's as a result of this that we have that we are experiencing what we have today. Going by what we're talking about here, by now, what we should have is that there ought to have been a step-by-step approach to evolving rehabilitation, rebuilding, and restoration of the internally displaced person, either back to their communities, or either trying to take them away from whatever it is that they began to go through as a result of the insurgents' attack. A lot of these people, like I've mentioned in past, are already having one psychosocial issue or the other. thanks to some civil society organizations that have come to their aid one way or the other. So what I can say sincerely and specifically is that yes, a few IDPs have gone back to their homes in Adamawa State and a few others in Gombe State and all that. But the issue we have is still a very, very serious issue because there is no structured um, system that is in place or that is being followed by by government agencies, in charge, especially those in the camps. There's no structured system. There's no step-by-step approach, that's being followed in restoring or returning the IDPs back to their homes. I believe that, like my colleagues talked about, we know there are explosives in different places. There are bodies littering all over the place. There are decomposing bodies. There are issues. So you have serious health issues that must be taken into cognizance. When you are talking about returning the IDPs back to their homes. Though many of them are willing and they want to go back to their homes. Many want to go back to their homes.
The question of returning them to their homes as against them staying within the camps. I mean, the last time you spoke with us, you said something about the conditions within the camps. Are the conditions ripe enough for them to stay while the cleanup continues in their communities?
Well, like I've said, when you have an institutional failure or the absence of a credible an institution that is saddled with this responsibility, with the capacity to handle a more I'm trying to find the most appropriate word now, to give them a better condition. What you have is failure. So the situation has not changed, but what you have is that some of the IDPs who are still under the employment of their state government and still earn their salaries monthly, the option they take, instead of staying in that squalor, is to move out of the camp and go look for maybe a settlement or rent an apartment somewhere, and to begin to fend for themselves. Some of them also go as far as getting menial jobs to ensure that it helps to cushion whatever effect they have. The health conditions have not really improved as much, other than the interventions that is coming from the NGOs and of course some spirited Nigerians, because what you have is that NEMA brings relief occasionally to the camps. Yes, the feeding and the other aspect is done by the state government. That you can, that's big ups to the state governments. They are trying their best and they're spending a fortune feeding the IDPs in the camp. But I can tell you sincerely that the camps in most places, apart from Meduguri, where you have a conglomeration of almost all the local governments coming into Meduguri to camp, and so apart from that Meduguri, most other areas, most people are leaving the camps to live in other communities. A lot of people are even coming down, south, so that's why you also have the issue of some of the people who have moved down to Abuja, some have moved down to Kaduna, some have gone gone down to Nasarawa, some have gone as far as Lagos. That's the truth. A lot of people who have gone to Lagos who are living in people's homes and all that. In some weeks back, NOI polls in partnership with Social Welfare Network Initiative and Africa conducted an awareness polling on the awareness of IDPs in Nigeria, and we were stunned, by the result we got. Yes, the polling results showed that 73% of Nigerians are aware of IDPs one way or the other in various places. But the alarming thing was that about 57% of them live in people's homes. And when we talk of people's homes, we're talking as far as Lagos, Ibadan, Ondo, you name it, all across Nigeria. So the IDP issue have spread across the federation. So we're not just talking about the people living in camp, because from the statistics we have, less than 10% of the total IDPs in all over across the federation are in the camps. Less than 10%. So you have about 90% or more who are living in people's homes, in settlements, on the streets, uncompleted buildings, and of course in all manner of places. So most often what government have done and concentration on doing through NEMA is that they've concentrated on the camps squarely. They've only dealt with the camps, and state governments have only dealt with people living in the camps, except for a few people who probably are able to notice one place and say, oh, these are IDPs here, so they take one thing or the other for them, to them. So the issue there now is, how do we aggregate? How do we get back all these people who are